Good day. I am one of the circuit breaker auditors, Mark Fritz, and today I will present a training session that will cover the guidelines for in-district claiming. Let's review some slides that cover the general guidelines for claiming in-district services. On this slide, you can see that our in-district training has 3 modules. This is the first of the 3 modules. The other 2 modules include a demonstration of claiming in-district services and a separate module covering editing in-district services on an existing placement. What gets claimed for in-district services? In-district services can only be claimed if they are actually provided to the student and clearly delineated on the service delivery page or the additional information page of the student's signed IEP. Extended school year services must be provided and clearly delineated on the student's IEP. And if your summer program begins in June 2026, please don't forget to claim the June dates now as a separate placement. Note that a new IEP form has been implemented, and the new form has a separate section and grid for the extended school year services. If a new IEP or an IEP amendment results in a service level change, a new placement will be needed to capture the changed services because the cost of the student's program has changed. As noted, new IEPs or IEP amendments are only considered if the parent or guardian accepts the service changes outlined. In February 2025, we implemented a new online claiming system to replace the previous Excel-based file system. One of the most important features of the new claim system is that the claim is aligned with the IEP service delivery grid. Users now enter the services directly from the service delivery grid, and if applicable, from additional information, identifying each service entered by grid, A, B, or C, or additional info. A new IEP form is also being used, and this IEP separates the school year delivery grid from the extended school year service delivery grid. We will show an example during our training session on entering an in-district claim. A major change that was enacted in fiscal 2025 involves consultation services. In the past, we asked users to combine consultation services for certain types of services in the same cost category and report the combined consultation services on one row in the claim. For instance, if Grid A had consultation for PT, OT, and speech, those consultation services were combined and entered into a specific consultation row named Related Services Consultation. In the new claim system, each consultation service is entered separately. Another major change in fiscal 2025 is that any time conversions that are necessary because the service delivery is written in a different frequency than the IEP are automatically computed in the system. When you enter the service, there are options for weekly, monthly, yearly, daily, per cycle, and other options. There is no need to use a conversion chart anymore. New in-district service names were added to the system in fiscal 2025. We have a slide highlighting some of the changes later in this presentation. Extended school year programs must be defined in the system before creating the placements. There's an option to create your in-district summer programs on the header row of the new system's homepage. We have recorded a separate training module covering in-district summer programs. Once the extended school year programs are added to the system, you will be able to link specific placements to the extended school year programs. The goal of this new feature is to ensure districts are claiming extended school year programs accurately, as our reviews typically find a high error and change rate on extended school year claims. In order for services to be claimed for circuit breaker, the service provider must be clearly delineated in the student's IEP. There is an important nuance involving the slash if two or more providers are listed for a particular service on the service delivery grid. For the A grid, which is for consultation, we allow all providers listed with slashes to be claimed. For the B and C grids, which are direct services, only one provider can be claimed if the service delivery group type is individual. This slide shows some important service provider categories. On the DESE website, we have posted the fiscal 26 service reimbursement rates for in-district services claimed. This can be found on the circuit breaker page, the tools and additional information subheading, second item named in-district special education services calculator. Note that there were some important changes to the reimbursable services that were effective in fiscal 2025, and I just want to repeat them for this year too. Counseling was a single line item on the old Excel file, but has been expanded to include 3 different counseling services, which include school adjustment counselor, school psychologist, and social worker / licensed mental health counselor. Nursing had an important change. A registered nurse is now in a higher reimbursement category than a licensed practical nurse. New categories have been added for autism specialist and transition specialist. Note that these specialists require endorsements from DESE's Office of Education Licensure. Ophthalmologist services have been added to the claim. Ophthalmologists can be claimed in the highest reimbursement category, which includes specialty consultation services at the doctorate level. Note that the teacher of the deaf and the teacher of visually impaired were added to the claim system as new service categories in fiscal 2025. There were services for hearing and visually impaired students on prior year claims, but the word teacher was not in the prior titles, and the credentials for the new teaching categories may have changed. This slide highlights certain services which require documentation in the IEP. Specialty consultation services are reimbursed at the highest state rate. The IEP should indicate that this provider is at the doctorate level. BCBA consultation services should identify the provider as a BCBA in the service delivery grid or in the additional information section of the IEP. And ABAs should be listed clearly as the provider in the IEP. The provider should be spelled out in the grid, or there should be language in the IEP indicating the provider is an aide trained in the principles of ABA. On this slide, we have an ABA triangle, and it's a busy slide, but this slide lists the various levels of ABA service and service providers. While the most common service is a direct service provider trained in the principles of ABA, and another common service is the supervision of the direct service provider by a BCBA. ABA services can also be provided at the doctorate level and by special education teachers. Please refer to the 4 questions listed on this slide. What type of personnel is identified in the student's IEP? Who provided the services? What are their qualifications? And what position were they hired for? Just because the provider has additional certifications, such as a special education teacher or a BCBA, if that provider was hired for a lower level service like direct ABA services, the claim should reflect the actual service provided. For example, if the IEP lists the service as ABA and the provider as an ABA, and your district hired a certified special education teacher to perform the ABA services, you should claim ABA, not special education teaching. The fact that the person hired for the ABA service is a certified special education teacher does not overrule the IEP service delivery grid service provider. The third bullet regarding duration and frequency on this slide is very important because services must be delineated and quantified in order to be reimbursable. Our new circuit breaker system has one important change regarding service conversions. In the past, if the IEP was written on a particular day cycle, but some services were quantified differently, it was necessary to do some math in order to convert the services to match the days and cycle. Our new system does the math for you. In most cases, it is no longer necessary to convert the services. How are your services delivered? On the claim system, it is necessary to identify the service delivery as either individual, small group, or group as defined. And as you can see, individual is when the student receives one-to-one services from a provider. Small group is generally considered to be 2 to 4 students in a classroom, and group is 5 or more students in a classroom. If you're not sure of the delivery group type, please check with the individual providers to see how the services were delivered. On this slide, we wanted to highlight some new features in the claim system. You can now find the service type by scrolling through the list alphabetically. Services can also be searched using the hourglass feature, and we'll show you that during our live demonstration. One important change this year is the ability to clone a placement from the prior year claim. Users will be able to clone a fiscal 25 placement to the fiscal 26 claim for that student. This will allow districts to retain the same services from fiscal 25 without re-entering all of the services again. This will be covered during our demonstration of claiming in-district services. Note that you can only enter one group type per grid, A, B, or C, for each service when you create the claim. You would use the edit option in the claim system to add additional group types. We will be demonstrating this during our live demonstration. This concludes our discussion of our guidelines. Please listen to the separate module training recordings for claiming in-district services and editing existing placements for further guidance on in-district claims. Thank you very much for listening.